There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children, watch that sound. Everybody look what's going down.
Well, welcome back to another edition of the Florida State Semi-cast. My reaction, firstly, if you don't like cursing, you might want to go ahead and exit this video right now, because I'm sure some expletives are about to fucking fly. Oh, there goes one. The loss to UNC, 35-37 on a 54-yard field goal as time expired. How did, quote, we, end quote, get there? Well, geez, where else can you start but the fucking defense? This is game 5, and the defense still continues to look lost as all hell. I knew this game was going to be a shootout. That wasn't the surprise. But just how fucking insanely easy it was for UNC to move the ball was inexcusable. And it's hard not to put it, most of it, on the coaching. Because again, I would be totally fine if UNC and other opposing teams were just, for lack of a better term, out physicaling FSU. You know, the receivers are catching balls into which they're covered, and quarterbacks are just making great throws into small windows. But no, that's not the deal. FSU's defense isn't just getting beat man for man. They're lost. Blown coverages galore on one drive. What was it, 3 or 4? Like in a set of maybe 6 or 7 plays, just guys running wide open. Each time it seemed like UNC would stack their receivers, and FSU defensive back or backs would be confused as to which one takes which receiver. Like, it was a joke. 3rd and longs converted consistently. 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8. Switzer running wide open. Hell, the announcers were even laughing almost, it seemed like. Like, you guys might want to cover number 3. He's converted like 4 out of their last 5 third downs, yet he continued to run free. At times, the tackling was a fucking joke again. And effort in general at times was again horrible. Linebacker play continued to suck. Couldn't fill gaps. Instincts looked awful half the time. Not much of a pass rush. In fairness, UNC does get rid of the ball rather quickly, but even so, when Trubisky had to sit back there, he had time. Quite a bit. It's like anywhere you look, it's just god awful, and a lot of it's coaching. I mean, like, I'll go over it again. Blown coverages. Defensive backs looking confused. Coaching. Poor tackling in game 5. Coaching. Guys not getting lined up quickly or correctly. Coaching. FSU has great athletes on defense, and that's where it starts in college football. Usually if you have the best players, you're going to win more often than not. But if your coaching is this horrible, I can't even think of another word besides just horrible, then you can lose. They gave up over 500 yards. FSU's defense does lead in one category, though. Yards per play allowed among Power 5 teams. Nearly 7 yards per play for the season. This is quite easily and quite obviously the worst FSU defense I have ever seen in my nearly 25 years as a fan. By far. I didn't think 2009's defense could be rivaled, but holy shit was I fucking wrong. Okay? Just awful. On UNC's last touchdown drive. Good Lord. Like, you guys are trying to get the ball back so you can take the lead, and just the missed tackling, some of the effort, and UNC goes down and scores. Of course they do. With that kind of fucking lackadaisical effort. What was it? I can't remember what the play was exactly, but it was a sideline play. McFadden, I go, ooh, McFadden's in position. Nice. It's going to be a short gain. No, just like piss poor tackling. Just players on occasion just loafing around. Like, what are you doing? I mean, they were fortunate enough to have that extra point blocked. But the fact that they just allowed UNC just to march down at the end, which wasn't a shocker, was just like, what has to motivate you guys to fucking like give more effort? And who was teaching you to tackle? This is pathetic. Absolutely fucking pathetic. And then on the final drive, FSU's fortunate even having taken the lead, 35-34. UNC gets the ball with 23 seconds, and I say to my family who's watching the game with me, it's not over. Oh, it's nowhere near over. 23 seconds, and UNC had at least one timeout. Maybe it was two. I can't recall. I was like, they just need a field goal. And what does Kelly do in all his brilliance? After his team that's been absolutely fucking shredded the entire game, and about the only time they've had any semblance of slowing them down was the couple times they blitzed. Now, yes, they gave up a couple first down on some blitzes, but when they brought it, hell, I was at least like, if you can't stop them, I almost rather you sell out and try than sit back and get fucking raped over and over again. But what does he do? Right out of the gates. And my friend reminded me of this. FSU's defense starts out with 3 down linemen, basically playing the prevent to prevent the victory. Cool, let Trubisky just sit back there, and sure as shit, what was it, the first play? Maybe the second play? I can't recall. Boom, 15, 20-yard gain. They're nearly at midfield, just like that. That miracle-ass field goal never even should have been attempted. That guy should have never had the opportunity if this defense pulled its heads out of its asses for at least 15 seconds. Was that too much to ask? It's clear these defensive players have no confidence in what they're doing, no confidence in what this staff is doing. Jesus, so bad. Again, I could deal with it if they were just simply getting beat, but they're not. That's not happening. They're looking incompetent time and time again. And this game, I'm sorry, goes on the defense. They're not the only reason FSU lost this game in ridiculous fashion, but they are the main factor. That's plainly obvious if you watch the game. Hell, if you've watched the season. You're telling me your offense, as an FSU's, puts up nearly 600 yards, scores 35 points, and yet you still lose? How do you not look at the defense as the biggest reason as to why they lost? I mean, does no one else see that? Let's move to the offense. Now, some people on Twitter I saw, and a friend of mine, like to do the easy, obvious, kind of lazy person's argument and say, well, this game goes on Aguayo. Blocked field goal, 2 misses. Okay, a 5th grader can tell me that the math on those field goals means a win for FSU. No shit. That's not exactly dynamite deep analysis there. But to say he was the reason they lost after what I just told you about the defense is just ludicrous. Aguayo is not the reason they lost. He was one of the mistakes on offense, as in the first drive of the game. Sets the tone, right? FSU is gashing UNC as expected because the Tar Heels defense sucks. It's 4th and what? A yard and a half from UNC's 29, 28-yard line, whatever it was. This is before the field goal is even attempted, so it's not like in hindsight I'm screaming, why didn't you go for it because the field goal was missed? No. Obvious to anyone that has half a brain. 4th and 2 or, whatever it was exactly. on your opponent's like 30-ish, you go for it. It's quite simple, especially when you're gashing that team. But no, he elects, Jimbo that is, to puss out and attempt a 45-yard field goal. And of course, it's missed. I give Aguayo the pass for that. Why? The kick never should have fucking been attempted, in my fucking opinion. Never. And a lot of people's. 4th and a yard and a half. You'd rather have a true freshman kicker, who although has done well prior to this game, you'd rather have a true freshman kicker attempt a 45-yarder, which is makeable, but that's not automatic. It's not like it was a 35-yarder. You'd rather have that true freshman kicker attempt that kick instead of handing the ball to one of the best running backs in the country or designing whatever play you want to pick up a yard and a half. Let's put those on the scales and see which one tips in logic's favor. Yeah, you go for it in that situation. Hands down. Simple fucking 4th down math right there. Just god awful. Before I keep reaming the offense, let me at least say the positives. Nearly 600 yards. Dalvin Cook was Dalvin Cooked. Tried to carry this team on his fucking back. Maven Saunders had a breakout game. Francois, although there were times when he held the ball too long and it was just inexcusable to take some sacks he took. Ended up putting up good numbers at the end of the game. 300 yards. Had that ridiculous rushing TD to take the lead with 23 seconds to go. Who am I forgetting? Izzo had a solid game. The offensive line, minus the penalties, kicked ass. I thought they played very well for much of the game. Like I'm saying, I'm not talking penalties here. Take those out. Physically, the line played well and gave running lanes, gave Francois time to pass most of the time. So those are the good things. But again, let's get to the bad things. And most of those have to do with coaching decisions. Number one was the field goal attempt I just described. I'm trying to rattle these off in my head. I didn't write anything down, just going off memory here. Before the first half expired. Again, UNC's defense is a joke. FSU is backed up inside their own 20, but there's over a minute to go. And FSU has, I want to say they had 2 timeouts. I think it was at least 2, and I'm pretty sure it was more than 1. And Jimbo plays it conservatively and runs out the clock, despite, losing, seeing that his defense is a joke and that you're going to have to try and score whenever you can. No, he plays it conservatively, doesn't try to score before the half, and rightfully so. They got booed as they go in the locker room. How do you not try and attack defense with over a minute to go and multiple timeouts? A defense that has sucked ass, you don't try and move the ball at all. You just give in. It goes back to that field goal. Same deal. Like, you cannot trade field goals for touchdowns in this game. You had to know that coming in. You know what your defense is, which is to say pure ass. Other coaching decisions that marred the offense's otherwise good day. I honestly didn't like the 50-something yard attempt by Aguayo. Again, you get on their side of the field. It was obviously a longer 4th and whatever, but I almost would have preferred you'd try and pick up that 4th down, even though it was 4th and long, than attempt a 50-plus yarder with a true freshman kicker. And guess what? I think that was the one that got blocked, I believe. And again, it's hard for me to be pissed at Aguayo there. That's a 50-something yard field goal, okay? He is not his brother. He's talented, no doubt, but I'm usually hardly ever get pissed at college kickers for missing 50-yarders, okay? And I can't remember if the kick was too low or the blocking was horrible. Either way, I didn't like that long attempt either. Again, trying to trade field goals for touchdowns in that game, not wise. And again, I get the simple math about Aguayo. You cannot tell me that's the only reason they lost the game. Cannot tell me that. It goes deeper than that. Coaching decisions, scheme, all of that played part of this game. Some other things that were bothersome that has continued. The play calling sometimes. Jimbo Fisher runs pro style offense. It's very complex. okay? And when it's clicking on all cylinders, it's a beautiful thing to watch. It really is. When you have all the pieces in place, it can just totally gash teams, okay? But Winston's not walking through that door, nor is the other, 19 dudes that got drafted off that same national championship team. That's not happening. 19 starters, rather. Okay? And so when you have guys that aren't exactly, once in a lifetime players, you probably should think about maybe tweaking the offense a little bit, as in at least use a quarterback that has the ability to run in run plays. I don't think Francois had a design run till the second half. Like, how does that happen? Like, it's 2016. You run your quarterback some more. Use read option. It opens up so many things. Even Nick Saban and Bud Elliott from Tomahawk Nation has pointed this out, and others have, and it's obvious. Even Nick Saban has adjusted. He used to have a plodding offense too. Of course, he had just had the best players in the country, so it just simply didn't matter. But he noticed, especially when Kiffin came aboard, like you gotta kind of change with the times a little bit. And so now he has a running quarterback that he uses. They run a little up, not I would say up tempo, not like they're Oregon, but they get the playoff a little quicker than they had been in the past. And you just see time and time again, it was almost every play. The play clock would be around 10 seconds or get under 10 seconds before the ball was snapped. Like in a game where you're in a shootout, you are, you need to run more plays. You have incredible athletes on offense. You need to run more plays or give them more at bats, if you will. Give them more opportunities to make plays. Instead, you're snapping the ball with 10, 9, 8 seconds to go on the clock nearly every time. One, gives defenses all the day in the world to get lined up and get ready and try and read what you're doing. Two, it's no wonder FSU gets as many false starts as they do. Can you? These guys have to squat for 20 and 25 seconds before the ball's fucking hiked. I'm not saying if Jimbo needs to change his offense completely, but he needs to tweak it. He needs to tweak it. He's one of the best coaches in the country because he's a great talent evaluator, elite recruiter, prepares guys for the NFL, and I get all that, but sometimes you have to work with the cards you're dealt, okay? Francois, probably no matter what you do with him, is not going to be a high draft pick. He's 6'1", 6'2". Quarterbacks that short, quote, unquote, don't usually get drafted high. So treat him like a college quarterback and run him more. It opens up other things. I swear, it's true. I'm not making this up. And sometimes, it's not like he got pass happy, but I thought there was a few times where I didn't mind play action on first down because sometimes you can do a lot of damage on that. But I was totally satisfied if they would have ran more often than not first down, and they did for the most part. But sometimes, like, all right, you passed a couple downs in a row. Was that you don't need to really do that against this UNC defense more than likely. Maybe I'm wrong, but the offense and the coaching decisions, like, how do you get nearly 600 yards of offense and put up 35 points? I'll tell you how. You don't go for fourth downs when you should, especially in the first half. You don't give your players enough plays because your offense is too plodding and hikes the ball with under 10 seconds to go on the play clock. Like, again, this sounds like, if you're just a casual fan, this sounds like, what is this guy bitching about? They put up near 600 yards and 35 points. There's something inherently wrong about not getting more points when you have that many yards, and a lot of that had to do with the decisions I've described. Okay, so going forward, I think Jimbo really has to look in the mirror. I mean, the defense is the obvious thing. That's got to. I know that you could probably not point everything on Kelly. It's hard to just say all these problems are one guy, but Kelly's at the top of the defense, okay? And you're not going to release every defensive player from their scholarships. That's not going to happen. So Kelly has to go. Now at this point, FSU season's already over. They have virtually been mathematically eliminated from the Atlantic Division, basically. Clemson's not losing to us, you know. So and they're certainly not losing in 2 games. in conference. So that's done. The season's over. So firing Kelly now is probably pointless. It's probably pointless. Whoever you can bring in, who knows who could that be right now, is not going to turn this defense around right now. So you might as well just let it play out and then fire him at the end of the year. As much as I want to see him gone right now, it's nearly pointless. The season's done. But at the same time, you feel like, fuck that shit, fire him. I mean, for me, obviously, yeah, he would have his shit cleared out of his office right now. So Jim has got to look in the mirror and make tough decisions. I know Kelly's his boy and everything. He's the one that promoted him. He's the one that pushed for his raise. But these kids are lost on defense. And soon enough, their attitudes and their demeanor is going to start affecting the offense. It's going to happen. Seen it happen before. It's called the lost decade. And he's also going to look in the mirror at his offense. Can I really expect college kids to comprehend my complex offense as quickly as I want? Probably not, unless you have a once-in-a-generation quarterback and once-in-a-generation receivers for FSU around him, like KB and Rashad, and elite offensive linemen. Like, it's hard to duplicate every year. Like I said, when the pieces are there, it's a beautiful offense to watch. But with the athletes you have, you can tweak it, run a little bit more up tempo. I'm not saying breakneck speed, but I don't know, can you hike the ball at 15 seconds, 16 seconds? He's got to look himself in the mirror too. This season is headed to 8-4. Hell, maybe in 7-5 at this rate. This defense shows no signs of turning around. So any competent team they play, and I've said this before, it's going to be a shootout. Hell, even Florida's offense, which has looked god awful yet again. Hell, I expect them to put up 30. Fuck it. They have Miami next week. Kai is a solid quarterback. Can you say shootout? Yep, I can. However, I will say this. If Miami cannot beat FSU this year, just give up, Canes fans. Just give up. There is no reason Miami should not win this ball game at home against a demoralized team. Like, I could easily see this UNC loss turning into 2. Easily. A lot of these players, especially on defense, have one foot mentally out the fucking door. Anyways, this has gone on long. That's my initial reaction. Just pure and utter horseshit. Nearly 7 yards per play given up on the season. Wow. So, and it's just, like I said, it's frustrating because you can see a lot of the poor play has to do with coaching. A lot of it. To wrap up again for the last time, blown coverages, guys not lined up properly, lack of effort at times on defense, the poor tackling, not going for 4th down when you should, not trying to score before the half ends, having a plodding offense that doesn't give your elite athletes enough at bats. All of these factors have led to that loss yesterday. Sure, if you want to throw Aguayo in there, yeah, go ahead. He's the least of my worries. It's gonna be a long year. A long year. But thankfully, at least for me, the Cubs are incredibly good. There's a bright spot. I'm sure none of you are listening to this care about that, but hey, the Cubs start their playoff march next Friday, so I guess I can look forward to that. I mean, something to dull the pain. Anyways, thank you for listening. Sorry I went so long. I just had a lot to get out. I mean, there's so many problems to address. It's incredible. Anyways, if you're a first-time visitor to this channel, please feel free to subscribe. And this has been another Florida State Semi-cast. I'm out.